Hey guys, welcome to TRW Pizza. Once again, thanks so much for all the support and interest and positive vibes I'm getting off people. This channel's not been running for very long, but you know, it's definitely piqued people's interests and a lot of questions are coming through. Thanks so much for that. Please like and subscribe if you find this kind of content interesting, because there's a lot more coming your way. Basically today I wanted to answer some questions because I get asked a lot of questions in either the YouTube channel comments or in the other social media I use. And the quickest way to do this actually is to just go through some of these questions and give you some insights directly. So first and foremost, I'm going to pick out, I've written down what a lot of these questions are, just go through them systematically. So there's 10 questions which keep on coming up. And number one is, what's the most important element when you're about to cook a pizza to make sure it's a success? I mean, it's a very difficult one to answer because there are so many different elements, obviously, but you know, that's the easy way out of this question. I think if I had to put my finger on it, the question talks about when you're about to cook a pizza, suggesting that you've already made the dough, everything's good to go, you've probably got your oven ready to go. And I think at this point, really, we're talking about preparation in general. So there's a term in the culinary world called mise en place, which is a French term meaning everything in its place. And this translates beautifully for me when it comes to cooking pizza, because what you find is that you've got a very short window of opportunity to get everything running smoothly, to make sure your dough comes out onto the board, it's then transferred onto the peel in the right shape, the toppings go on, you get it into the oven, it's cooked in under 2 minutes, you know. So if you aren't prepared and don't have your mise en place set up properly, you can be halfway through one of those steps and then realize, oh, I haven't chopped up my dry mozzarella. Oh, I forgot to get the salt in my tomato sauce. You know, and what happens there is you let yourself down, you stumble in the timing, it doesn't become as smooth, it takes the satisfaction out of it a bit, and it essentially makes your process slower, which means that the pizza takes more time to go from the dough ball to coming to fruition as a pizza on the plate, which in my opinion does actually impact the quality of the pizza as well. So mise en place is super important. Get all your toppings prepared in their own little bowls, specific bowls. Make sure you have all your different products like tools ready. Make sure you have your turning peel next to your oven. You might have left it somewhere and then suddenly you launch the pizza, you realize you haven't got your turning peel there, you have to rush inside and find it. I've done it before myself a number of times. It's highly frustrating. You might get a burnt pizza as a result. But you know, I actually personally, I'm quite a methodical person. I have a checklist which goes through these things. It's actually written down. It might sound a bit scary, but I've got it written down because that's just how my brain works. So yeah, mise en place is a culinary phrase which is very applicable, in my opinion, for making pizzas. That's question number one. Question number two, what makes a good launch? Okay, so I'm very passionate about this because for a long time, I was not able to guarantee a good launch every time, and now I am, and I know why that is. I know the factors that constitute a good launch. One of them is making the right type of dough that isn't too wet and sticky. That doesn't mean you can't do a high hydration dough, but it means that at the point at which it goes on the peel, it needs to be not wet in any area that's touching the peel. Now I'll get the peel out now just to show you. Let me grab it. So basically, I know that with the consistency of pizza that I make at about 66%, the pizza dough will sit on here, and if it's wet at any point underneath the pizza, it will get stuck. When I go to launch it, it will get stuck in that little bit, that little part. It will then concertina, bunch up, land in the Ooni, non-round, get stuck on the Ooni stone, and just be a bit of a headache from then on. Make the Ooni stone dirty, the next pizza will get stuck on that, etc., etc. It's like a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. So what I do is, I get the dough ball, I land it on some Tipo 00 flour, straight in there, a big kind of heap of tipo 000 flour, and then turn it over. So basically the dough ball itself has got no wetness to it anymore. It's all kind of absorbed by that flour. Obviously I don't want it caked in flour, but I want just a fine layer all across. At that point I bring it onto the surface to actually pat out the pizza into the shape and thinness that I want it, and then essentially it goes on the peel. And you know, some people put the toppings on the pizza when it's on the peel, some people do it before it goes on the peel. For me, it doesn't really make a massive difference. But then at that point, I know that when it's went on the peel, it was dry underneath. I also put a tiny touch of semolina flour, but not a lot. One of the problems of putting too much semolina flour or tipo 00 flour on the peel before it gets launched is that that flour will actually coagulate on the stone and eventually burn. And that's a problem. So there's another important thing to remember. I'm just checking my notes. When the pizza's sat there and you know it's ready to go, always give it a little jiggle. And I've filmed this a number of times. I'll put something over the top here to show it. But the pizza, when you jiggle it like this on the peel, should actually just move 100% like this. If you see the front of it moving, but it's not moving in the middle, that means it's stuck. That means there's a wet bit stuck here. And that's a problem. That's where you need to either say, right, this is going to be a bit of a challenge to launch, I'm going to do it anyway, or you say, you know what, I'm going to take this pizza off, I'm going to make sure it's all dry underneath, and then try again. These days, I actually go for the latter. I make sure it's moving 100% until I launch it. Hope that makes sense. One other point about a good launch is that if your pizza is a little bit toppings heavy, if you've got a very watery sauce, for example, what will happen is that it can puddle on the pizza and has more likelihood of going through to the bottom of the pizza, that liquid, and again, creating that stickiness and wetness. So try not to overdo toppings on your pizza. Try not to do too many, let's say, too watery sauce in your pizza, and that should manage that certain risk. So, next question. When do you know to take the pizza out when it's cooked? Okay, so one of those questions as well where there's so many factors here. You can be looking at the color of the toppings, the color of the crust, is it, you know, looking underneath with the pizza peel and making sure you can see that it's got a nice color to it but not charred. Obviously it's very disappointing if you take a pizza out and serve it and you know it's got that still got that doughiness, which means that it hasn't fully cooked through. That is a problem. However, I am a firm believer that you can look out for those signals in terms of color. You can do the timing and know that, look, if I make a consistently solid dough that I know it's kind of the same type of dough every time, and I know that I bring it out after 1 minute 50 seconds and it's cooked, that's great. But there's also this kind of intangible element of pizza cooking, which is when you've done it enough, you just know. And it sounds strange, it sounds like one of those almost like mystical elements of cooking, but when, you know, if you ever talk to chefs, and I've, you know, both worked, you know, just for short summer jobs and stuff, but I have worked in professional kitchens and I understand the thought process of chefs, and there are these unquantifiable elements of cooking, and they do sometimes just know something's right, and it's almost like a sixth sense, and that comes through repeated actions, doing things time and time again, continual improvement, and before you know it, yes, it might seem that you've got this magical ability to know when your steaks cook perfectly or when the eggs perfectly kind of medium soft, or you know exactly when you've got even like enough sugar in your tea. It's just about repetition. So I would say practice, 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 and that's the key part. Number 4, question 4, does gluten affect you? And if so, how do you manage it in your diet? So it's a really good question. Actually, it does. It sounds strange for someone who loves pizza, but gluten, let's say if I eat bad quality food which has white flour in it. It can make me feel lousy, it can make me feel lethargic. Sometimes I can even get kind of itchiness in my eyes. However, I don't get it with the pizzas I make, and I think, all hypothesis, you know, but I think that's down to the fact that I make sure that all the products that I use to make my pizza are really good quality. I use Italian Caputo flour, which I believe, you know, follows the right standards to make sure there's no unnecessary chemicals or anything like that inside it. I use the finest quality mineral water, and yeah, basically I do go through certain steps to make sure that there's nothing in my pizza that would be unnatural, basically. I think that's a good way of starting, because a lot of issues that people have with those kind of foods are some of the other things that are introduced with bad quality baked goods and things like that. Hope that makes sense. Also, I'm a big believer in having a varied diet in terms of fruit and vegetables, fermented foods for the gut biota, things like that. Interesting fact you might not know is that balsamic vinegar is a fermented food. The grapes are fermented that make the vinegar, and I find that when I eat fermented foods, it helps your digestive tract to digest things like glutinous foods. I also eat a lot of things which have good quality fibre in it, such as pomegranate with the seeds in, and kind of green bananas, things like that. And yeah, it just helps, but I don't think about it too much. I have a very healthy diet, do exercise, and yeah, it seems to work for me, but everyone's different. Everyone is different. 5. What temperature should your uni be, and how do you get it there? Okay, so I use this Ooni Koda 16. I've had it now for I think 5 months, 4 or 5 months, maybe longer, and I was always like really excited about the fact that it gets so hot. It's a 500 degree, up to 500 degree oven basically, and okay, I'm going to recreate an Italian pizza oven, get as hot as possible, get the pizza in there. It's going to be awesome. But the honest truth about that is that's not the optimal approach that I've found. If you get it too hot and you get it full flame and 500 degrees or something, it actually will char the bottom of the pizza and burn the edges. Remember, it's a relatively small, okay, it's Ooni Koda 16, so it's like the bigger version of that this comes in, but it's still like relatively small in there, so there's not a lot of space between the flame, which comes at the back left, the left hand side and the back there. The pizza's always not too far from the flame, so if you have the flame on full, you are going to scorch the edges if you're not careful. So what I do is I get my Ooni to about 430 degrees Celsius, and for the Americans or anyone else out there who uses Fahrenheit, let me just remind myself what that is in Fahrenheit. 430 Celsius to Fahrenheit. Scintillating quality entertainment right there. 806 degrees Fahrenheit. So 430 degrees Celsius in the center of the stone in there. 806 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what I'm aiming for when I launch my pizza. How do I get it there to that temperature? Personally, 20 minutes full flame gets it up to about maybe 470, 480. Then I turn the flame down to low, wait for it to get down to that level. Now I do use this product, this Ooni Infra Red Thermometer, to help me know what temperature it's at. Point and click, and it reads out what temperature. Hope you can see that. Reads out what temperature something is. So yeah, it would be at full whack on the flame. I'd get it to 480, turn it down to low, and then basically it's ready to cook the first pizza when it's about 430, give or take 10 degrees Celsius. Then remember, when you cook a pizza on this, the stone loses heat after one pizza significantly. So it might come down to about 400 degrees, even maybe 390. So that means that for your next pizza, you need to recharge the energy, the heat into the stone. So you turn it back up again, either high or medium, for a few minutes, then it comes back up to the optimal temperature. Turn it back down to low again, launch the pizza, and pizza number 2 is cooking. That's how I do it. The other way of doing it is putting it on medium flame for a bit longer, say 35 minutes, and then it will come up to the temperature you want, and not go over that, 430 degrees Celsius as quickly, but it's 6 and 2/3. I just do my approach on full flame for 20 minutes because it's the most efficient and quickest way to do it, in my opinion. So, question number 6. Have you tried the Ooni Karu and are you interested? So, no, I haven't. I've only ever used the Ooni Koda 16. I haven't used any other pizza oven in my life apart from my home oven, which I had the pizza stone on, which I got fairly decent results from, but nothing compared to a custom made and not custom made, a specifically built pizza oven like this, because the temperature just isn't there. This is the only pizza specific oven I've ever used. I absolutely love it. It's a wonderful piece of kit. I use it maybe once or twice a week without fail. Probably cooked, getting on for 350, 400 pizzas in it now. The Karu itself, so the Karu is the one where you have an option to have a wood burner in it. I think you can get an adapter, which means you can have gas and wood. Sounds great. I would love to try it out. I think it has a kind of chimney on the top as well, obviously for the wood smoke to go out. I'll get one eventually. I'm having so much fun with this, I don't need to prioritize it. I do imagine that it takes another level of trial and error and experience, obviously, to get your head around how wood burning equates to achieving the right temperature, and that's probably a little bit more challenging. But at the same time, that's what I love about doing this. I love the challenge. I love taking time to understand the process, continual improvement, getting to the point where I can actually make great pizzas. So yeah, can't wait to try an Ooni Karu. I've seen very good things about it so far. Favorite topping on a pizza? Okay, margarita. I always make at least 2 margaritas whenever I do a cook, and they always just, as long as I've got good quality cheese on there, buffalo mozzarella DOP, I'm a happy man. If I have to choose a non-marg, it would be prosciutto and rocket. I just love that mixture. Rocket or rucola is it's just a magic, like peppery, dry leaf, which just goes so well with that salty fattiness of prosciutto on a well-cooked pizza. I don't know what will beat that, to be honest. Tips for a beginner. Okay, so many tips for a beginner. Again, to sound like a broken record, just absorb as much information from other people who are producing the kind of results you want as possible. I've put a lot of videos out there about how I achieved what I achieve these days, which are fairly decent, consistent pizzas that I enjoy eating in a relatively short amount of time. Hopefully, my resources can help you. But there's loads of stuff out there. There's books. There's other YouTube channels. There's a lot of people that are just willing to share their approaches. So absorb a lot of that, and then just get stuck in. Make mistakes. Make more mistakes. Make a few more mistakes. And then you'll stop making those mistakes, and then your pizzas get better and better and better, to the point where you're really proud to share them with friends, family, and that's a delightful feeling. So yeah, absorb expert advice, try and try again, never get that feeling of dejection when you make mistakes, because that is how you make good stuff in life and in pizzas. Getting a bit philosophical there, but yeah, that's what it's all about. Question number 9, your favorite product. Obviously, okay, favorite product. It goes out saying that the oven itself is what's made my pizza making go to the next level by 100x, not just 10x, 100x, compared to the cooking in the oven at home on a pizza stone. This is their favorite product, but I think that's a bit of an obvious answer, that Ooni Karu 16. If I had to go for the next favorite product, okay, so I got this. It's a cruet, which is basically an olive oil dispenser, which was got for my birthday by my wife. It's made in Naples. It's very artisanally made. It holds the olive oil. Hopefully you can see that. And it's just a work of art, you know, handmade. It's got this. It's not just pretty though. I mean, it's got this very fine spout on it, which basically means that when you deploy the olive oil, it's very well controlled. It's not, if it was a bigger spout, the olive oil would go everywhere. You can't kind of over pour on this because it's so thin here. So it's hugely practical, really good, looks beautiful, yeah, I think that's something that, look, you can always use something like this, and I was for a long time. It's got a similar set of qualities. However, it's plastic, which I think when you're holding food and things, you know, ideally don't have things in plastic containers for too long. I like the fact this is metal and it'll last forever. So yeah, I'd say that's my other favourite product, pizza related product, after the Ooni Karu 16. What do you want next in terms of products? Okay, so my next purchase actually is going to be a new pizza peel. This has served me well. I've had it since the first days of pizza making at home. You can see it's got a lot of charring on the front end there. It's wooden, it's thin, it's basic. It's done a great job. It's good because it's not kind of professional grade, and it's a little bit rustic and basic. It actually teaches you to be better, you know. I mean, it's a bit like the old racing driver comparison where you hear about Formula One drivers back in the 50s and 60s learning in really basic vehicles before they became professionals, where the brakes weren't really working and they had to learn the fine art of how to do something with non-optimal products. And then when they were given a brand new, you know, Van Wall or BRM or something like that, they were able to just do incredible things with it. So I like that attitude. I like learning with equipment that isn't perfect and isn't the best. And then when I feel I'm at the point where I deserve to level up in that equipment, it then becomes a delight, and I can really see the improvements a lot. So getting back to the question, sorry. Yeah, I want a new pizza peel. I'm going to be purchasing one. I've got my eye on two at the moment. One is the Metal.gi. It's an Italian company which provides all kinds of pizza making equipment, peels, turning peels, cutters, things like that. And yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, with this kind of peel, you've got no holes on it. So when you have the pizza on there and there's some flour on the pizza, the flour gets congealed or builds up here, and then it goes launched into the oven, builds up. It has a propensity to burn and cause just some issues. Not big issues, but you know, if you have a metal peel with holes built into it, it means that there's less surface area touching the pizza. I imagine that means that there's less friction, so that when you then go to launch it, it's an easier launch. The flour can come through the bottom of the peel a bit, so there's less flour going into the oven. So in my thought process, that's going to make my life a bit easier. It's going to reduce the risk of flour getting scorched inside there. It's going to make the launch easier, and I like to make things easier for myself where possible. So anyway, that's 10 questions about pizzas, which I hope you will find useful. Thanks for asking those questions. Please ask more questions in the comments below, and I will do another session like this if you find it useful. So guys, please like and subscribe if you like this kind of information about pizzas, homemade pizza making, and yeah, see you next time. Cheers.